Spawn may be immortal now, but he's no chump, and he uses his time on Earth to take on the King of the Vampires. We're going to talk about it in our review of Spawn number 351 from Image Comics. See you in 3. And welcome back to Comical Opinions. This is our review of Spawn number 351 from Image Comics. And in this issue, we find Spawn coping without his powers by trying to find a cure for vampirism while opposing Bludd, the king of the vampires. Before we get started, please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit that bell for notification. Your attention is greatly appreciated, and please stay tuned to the end for the score. Let's talk about the credits. Spawn number 351 is written by Rory McConville, with script and story ideas from Todd McFarlane himself. The art is done by new artist on the title, Brett Booth, with inking assist by Daniel Enriquez, colors by J. David Ramos, letters by Tom Orzechowski. Oh man, you guys are killing me with these names, but it's okay. And the cover art for cover A is done by Vaughn Randall. Some of the names trip you up, but their art is fantastic, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Anyway, what happened in the previous issue? So the big issue is Spawn 350, which was the culmination and the finale of the Heaven-Hell War. What happened in that issue? Two big things took place, or actually several big things, but let's talk about the main ones. First, instead of Clown or Sin or Spawn or anyone else taking the throne, Spawn had a plan. He said, I can't take the throne because I can't trust myself to take on the power. So what does he do? He convinces Nyx from Greenworld, who is in service to Gaia, to take on the throne and become the new king or queen, if you choose, of Hell. She doesn't. But instead of saying, thank you very much, now we're in charge, here's your reward, she says, snap, banished, you're all gone. She sends everybody back to where they belong. All the demons and angels that were on Earth, she sends them back. All the spawns, sends them back to Earth. And on top of that, all the dead zones that were on Earth have now grown and merged to uncover the entire planet. So now all the hell spawns are powerless. Their symbiotes are effectively inert. The angels, no longer powerful, no longer with the power of heaven. Demons, unable to shapeshift and take on other forms. They no longer have necroplasmic power. So effectively, everyone is powerless that comes from either heaven, hell, or is a hell spawn. Done. That's it. And then we go silent. That's what happened. And now everybody in all the different issues of everything connected to the Spawn verse are the different characters, whether they be Gunslinger or the Scorched or whoever it may be, are now trying to cope with living life on Earth as a regular mortal that is subject to damage just like anybody else would be, even if they have expert training or weapons at their disposal. Spawn 351. This is the first issue past that big milestone issue, and now we catch up with Spawn, who is still mortal, still powerless, but by no means ineffective. And what's happened is, as a result of some of the goings-on that happened in King Spawn, issues 31 and 32, and I'll talk about, there's a weird blip there, I'll talk about that in a minute. Spawn is now shaking down the lower demons and the lower criminals in the underworld, looking for a cure for vampirism. And it has something to do with Bludd, who is the king of the vampires. Bludd spelled B-L-U-D-D. Not the same, but okay. Because at the time of the culmination of the Heaven-Hell War, which in this issue was 2 months prior, Bludd took advantage of the dead zones merging all over the earth, and he sent out his vampire troops to slaughter everyone he could get his hands on and take control of all the portals that lead to either heaven or hell. So now, if you're a hellspawn or a demon or an angel, you're powerless. The dead zones are covering the earth, and the dead zone portals that might get you back to whatever realm you originally came from are now under complete control of Bludd, who is the king of the vampires, with his vampire army. And his vampires are searching the earth to eliminate and capture anybody who might oppose him in the future if the dead zones happen to disappear and go back to normal. Now, what happens is that Spawn is looking for a cure for vampirism because of what happened in the events of King Spawn issues 31 and 32, presumably to cure somebody who got turned into a vampire who shouldn't have been, and also to potentially expose and undo the vampirism of Bludd and his army to level the playing field? Maybe. He doesn't quite explain it, what happens in this issue, what he intends to do with the cure if he finds it. But that's where we go. And he's making enough noise that he knows he's attracting some of Bludd's more lethal hunters, and he guides them into a trap, if you will, at an abandoned warehouse so he can kill some vampires that have more intelligence, that aren't the low-level feral kind, that are just mindless monsters, because he wants to capture and interrogate one or more of them to find out if there's a cure, how he can get his hands on it so he can do something with it. And that's where we end the issue. You say, wait a minute, that's where you end the issue? Yep, that's where we end the issue. It's just basically establishing a new status quo for Spawn after the 350 milestone issue. Now that there's a new status quo on Earth, it's just showing you, A, he's still a badass because he's killing and beating up and knocking out and taking out anybody who gets in his way. So even though he's not powerful in the Spawn sense, he's still an elite killer from his military training and also from years of working out, and maybe he's still on the juice, who knows. But he's absolutely not somebody you want to mess with. And he's absolutely capable of taking out some upper level vampires that come to try and take him out. But that's where we end, because it's mostly set up to show you and introduce you to the next arc of whatever is happening afterwards. Where do we get tripped up a little bit in the numbering for the issues? Particularly what his motivations are in this issue relate to King Spawn issues 31 and 32. There's a small problem with that. King Spawn 31 has come out, King Spawn 32 has not. So Spawn is motivated to find a cure for vampirism for something other than just simply having it. But the reason he's motivated to do that is if in an issue of King Spawn, which hasn't come out yet. So I don't know what's going on with Image with the Spawn titles in the Spawnverse. I don't know where they keep coming out of sync, which is a weird oddity, and to be honest, it's a little annoying, but there it is. So if you want to kind of figure out why Spawn is motivated to find a cure for vampirism, the answer is we don't know, because they don't explain it in this issue, and the issue it does reference that explains the background of that motivation hasn't even come out yet, and probably won't come out for at least another 3 or 4 weeks. So you may want to hold on to it until King Spawn number 32 comes out, or not. It's up to you. The issue still pretty much flows okay without it. But if you want to kind of get the complete picture, you may want to wait till King Spawn 32 comes out. Just as a helpful bit of information from your Uncle Gabe. Anyway, what do we like about Spawn number 351? Lots of great action. Lots of great monster fighting and killing. We see a broader picture of the effects of the now an entire Earth covered in a dead zone, because we see a group of angels that try to make it to a dead zone portal and they get basically massacred. We see how Spawn is trying to shake down lower level demons for information, and he does it, but it definitely takes some work and some effort. And you can also see how the demons and lower level criminals who used to be super afraid of Spawn maybe aren't so afraid of him like they used to be. So word has gotten out that he's mortal and that he's powerless, and that's maybe convincing people to be a little bit more brave than they would have been otherwise. So now this is a good issue to not only establish the status quo for Spawn and set him on a new mission, but also show you the broader implications of what's happened since the Dead Zone covered the Earth, which is good. It's all good stuff. All good stuff to set up the Spawnverse and build out that world as well as the characters that are in it. What didn't we like? Obviously, the misstep of the numbering of having Spawn set out on a mission related to another title that hasn't come out yet is a bummer. And we don't quite know what he intends to do with the cure of vampirism if he ever gets it. So he's on a mission, but we just sort of don't have the details. So the context is not there, and you feel kind of a little bit blind, a little bit in the dark about what he's trying to do. So that's a bit of a bummer. But you can see past that. So I would say overall, that's like a minor downtick of a problem. It's not a big problem. It's a minor problem, but it is kind of an annoyance that you don't get the full picture and you won't get it for several more weeks. So it sort of takes away from the effectiveness of this issue where it starts out. Let's talk about the art. So we've got Brett Booth on the art officially as the new standard artist going forward. For how long, I don't know, but he's the formal artist on the issue. Looks fantastic. This is quintessential Spawn art. Everybody's dynamic. The characters have like a slight air of whimsy about them, especially with the way the hair moves and the way the characters stand and their posture, the designs of the faces. This looks fantastic. This is like classic grade A Spawn Todd McFarlane styled art from start to finish. It looks fantastic. And plus the colors by J. David Ramos look amazing. And Daniel Enriquez, I'm assuming he's either doing the inks to Brett Booth's pencils, or I'm not sure how they're sharing the duties, but overall the art team knocked it out of the park. It looks fantastic. Final thoughts. What do we think about Spawn number 351? Definitely elevates Spawn as a formidable character. Without his powers, that makes it even more so. The quest to find a cure for vampirism is interesting, and the fact that the world is now fleshed out and built out, and we see the after effects not just for Spawn, but for so many other characters, even minor ones, is a lot of interesting world building that kind of gets you immersed in what's happening. The negative side of it is we don't have any setup or context or motivations for what Spawn's doing, because the story that would have filled that gap in hasn't come out yet. So it's a bit of a misstep in the publishing order, and that's a bit of a bummer. But still, great issue overall. Therefore, we're going to give Spawn number 351 from Image Comics a solid 9 out of 10. Are you reading Spawn comics? Are you interested in the Spawnverse? Are you interested in what happened after the milestone for the Heaven Hell War? Did you think it paid off? And are you interested now in all the after effects, the side effects, and the downstream effects of what happened by putting Nyx on the throne? And I think there are some seeds that are planted here about what Nyx and Green World intend to do now that they are in control of Hell. Is that the bigger story? What do you want to see out of this title? Let us know. We want to hear your comments down below. Thank you very much. If you want more reviews just like this one, please stay tuned through the outro.